Hello, and welcome to this overview of the Level 5 Coaching Professional Endpoint Assessment. Whether you're just starting to prepare or getting ready for the big day, we're here to walk you through everything you need to know. DSW are proud to be the chosen endpoint assessment organization for your apprenticeship. Our goal is to support you every step of the way, so you can confidently showcase your coaching skills and shine in your assessment. In this video, we'll take you through the full assessment journey, what to expect, how to prepare, and some handy tips to help you feel confident and in control. We'll also highlight a few common pitfalls so you can avoid them, and finish with some final reminders to help you feel ready and reassured. No matter how you're feeling right now, whether it's confident or a little unsure, this video is packed with practical advice designed to help you succeed. Let's get started. The Coaching Professional EPA consists of 3 assessment methods which can be completed in any order: observation with questions and answers, interview supported by the portfolio of evidence, and a knowledge test. To pass the observation with Q&A, the apprentice must meet all 8 pass criteria. A distinction requires meeting all pass plus 5 distinction criteria. For the portfolio-based interview, they must meet all 6 pass criteria for a pass, and all pass plus 3 distinction criteria for a distinction. In the knowledge test, scoring between 26 and 34 questions earns a pass. A distinction is awarded for 35 or more correct answers. Fewer than 26 results in a fail. For the overall grade, a pass requires a minimum of a pass in all 3 methods. To achieve an overall distinction, the apprentice must gain a distinction in each assessment method. The DSW Toolkit is your go-to starting point for all your endpoint assessments. It's packed with detailed guidance on each assessment method, a clear breakdown of the grading criteria, and links to all the essential documents you'll need. Inside the toolkit, you'll find some really useful resources, including the KSB mapping document, the portfolio referencing table, and a mock knowledge test complete with an answer sheet to help you practice. Your training provider also has access to extra guidance that can support you, like policies and procedures and the conditions for live assessment. These explain what you can and can't bring to each part of your assessment. There are also handy templates for witness testimonies, observation records, and context statements, plus technical guides for using platforms like Zoom, WebEx, and Teams. These aren't requirements, but are there if you need them. You'll also find DSW's evidence requirements, along with our policies on appeals, reasonable adjustments, special considerations and flexibilities, and even our AI usage policy. Once you've completed your on-program training and you're ready for your endpoint assessment, your training provider will submit your details to DSW to confirm you're gateway ready. This means we can start scheduling your assessments. At this point, DSW will assign an assessor to support you through the process. You'll have the same assessor for both your observation and Q&A, as well as your portfolio-based interview. So, what happens after you pass Gateway? You and your assessor will work together to agree on dates for your observation with Q&A and your professional discussion. Usually, this happens during an online planning meeting. But if email works better for you, that's fine too. It's important to remember that both coaching observations need to take place on the same working day. You can take a break between them, but they must be completed within that one day. The Q&A will happen straight after the second observation. When you join the planning meeting, it's a good idea to have a few preferred dates and times ready to share. Finally, you'll receive a booking link by email to schedule your knowledge test at a time that suits you. Next, let's talk about the amplification. In the toolkit, this is called the KSB mapping document. This should be your go-to starting point as you prepare for your assessments. The amplification outlines one possible way to demonstrate competence, but you aren't expected to follow a script. As long as you meet the criteria, how you do that is flexible, which is especially important in coaching, where your personal style and your coachee's needs will always vary. This document clearly shows what your assessor is looking for during each part of the assessment. It breaks down the grading criteria in detail and highlights which elements must be demonstrated during the coaching observations and which can be covered in the Q&A. The key thing to remember is that the knowledge, skills, and behaviors, or KSBs, are combined to create the pass and distinction descriptors. You're assessed only against those pass and distinction descriptors, not the individual KSBs themselves. The amplification also helps you focus your preparation. For example, if a specific criterion can only be shown during the observations, you'll want to choose coaching sessions that give you the best chance to demonstrate it. You'll also find in this document the key models and theories covered in the knowledge test, along with the level of understanding expected. Since the knowledge test is multiple choice, it's about showing a solid foundational knowledge rather than deep analysis or long answers. And finally, the amplification explains what your independent endpoint assessor expects to see in your portfolio. It details the evidence and key elements that will help prove you've met the grading criteria across your coaching practice. Taking the time to really understand this document will help you feel prepared and confident, so you can demonstrate your coaching skills clearly across all parts of the assessment. Now, let's take a closer look at the coaching sessions themselves. These sessions can take place in a few different settings: face-to-face at your workplace, face-to-face at your coachee's workplace, or virtually as long as both you and your coachee are fully visible throughout, or in another suitable location that has been agreed in advance with DSW. Your independent endpoint assessor will join the session remotely using the video platform arranged during your planning meeting. If your employer or training provider would prefer the assessor to attend in person, they'll need to contact DSW in advance to discuss this. Before each coaching session begins, there'll be a short housekeeping check. This includes introductions, a quick run-through of the process, and checks to make sure everything is in place, including confirming that you're in an appropriate environment and have your photographic ID ready. It's really important that you're familiar with the conditions for live assessment before the day. These outline what is and isn't allowed during the session. Your training provider has access to this document, and meeting these conditions is essential. If they're not met, the assessment may not go ahead. Once housekeeping is complete, your coachee will join the call, and the coaching session will begin. From this point on, the assessor will turn off their camera and simply observe. They won't interrupt or ask questions during your session. Both you and your coachee must remain fully visible at all times. You're welcome to take notes during the session, but the focus is entirely on your coaching practice. You'll deliver 2 separate sessions, each lasting up to 1 hour, with 2 different coachees. You don't have to use the full hour if the session finishes naturally. The most important thing is that each session is meaningful and gives you the opportunity to demonstrate your coaching skills. Each session must be recorded separately, and each time a new recording begins, the assessor will repeat the housekeeping checks to make sure all of the assessment conditions are still in place. Once your second coaching observation is complete, you'll move straight into the Q&A. This part of the assessment lasts for up to 20 minutes and is just between you and the assessor. Your coachee won't be involved. You'll have a 10-minute break between the end of your final observation and the start of the Q&A. This gives the assessor time to finalize their questions and gives you a moment to reflect on the sessions. The Q&A will include at least 5 questions, with up to 2 follow-up questions per main question. This allows you to clarify or expand on your answers if needed. The questions are based on a few key things: any past criteria that weren't fully demonstrated during the coaching sessions, any distinction criteria that haven't yet been met, and validation of what the assessor observed during your sessions. The KSB mapping document provides helpful guidance on what might come up during the Q&A. You could be asked to explain why you chose a particular approach, reflect on how you adapted your coaching to meet the needs of the coachee, or justify moments where you gave feedback or used a specific technique. The goal here is to show that your coaching choices were intentional and based on good practice, not just instinct. Think about what you did, why you did it, and how it supported your coachee's development. This is your opportunity to fill in any gaps and demonstrate your professional understanding. The grade will be sent to your training provider following the assessment. Let's take a closer look at how the amplification can support you during the observation with Q&A. One descriptor that's often misunderstood, especially by newer coaches, is P6. It states, delivers non-directive and non-judgmental feedback that is meaningful to those receiving the coaching. But what does that actually look like in practice? It means sharing observations or reflections in a way that supports the coachee's own insight without telling them what to do. For example, instead of saying, "You need to speak up more in meetings," you might say, "I noticed you didn't contribute in that meeting. What was going on for you there?" Think of feedback on a scale. from pure observation and reflection at one end to full-on advice at the other. For the purposes of this assessment, stay towards the reflective end unless there's a strong, justifiable reason to shift. Non-judgmental feedback also means focusing on behavior and its impact, not on the person. Avoid comments like, "You were too quiet," or "That was a bad choice." Stay curious, stay supportive. Apprentices often fail this criterion because their feedback is too directive, or it feels more like advice. Even if your intentions are good, when you say things like, "You should try X," or "You need to focus on Y," you move into directive territory. During your observation, the assessor will be watching for how naturally and effectively you give feedback. You don't need to give a lot, but when you do, it must be non-directive, meaningful, and delivered with care. In the Q&A, if the assessor notices that your feedback during the session was too directive, they'll ask you to justify it. If you didn't give any feedback at all, they'll ask why. You need to be ready to explain your choices either way. For the observation with Q&A, it's essential to review the grading criteria carefully. The KSB mapping document will help you understand exactly what's expected at both pass and distinction level. Some criteria will naturally be demonstrated during the coaching observation, while others may only come through in the Q&A. The two parts of the assessment work together, so don't worry if something isn't covered during the session itself. Make sure you choose a professional, quiet space where both you and your coachee can be clearly seen and heard. This helps create the right conditions for you to perform at your best, and for the assessor to see your coaching in action without distraction. Remember, the Q&A is your opportunity to clarify, expand, or provide evidence of anything that wasn't fully observed during the session. Use it to fill in any gaps and demonstrate your understanding and decision-making as a coach. At Gateway, you'll need to submit a portfolio of evidence, a collection of work you've completed during your apprenticeship that demonstrates how you meet the relevant grading criteria. Once submitted, your portfolio can't be changed, so make sure it's complete and clearly presented. You should aim to include around 10 to 15 pieces of evidence, but this is a guideline, not a rule. You won't be penalized if you have slightly more or less. Your evidence might include things like coaching session records, feedback from colleagues or clients, or even recordings of your coaching in action. You're not limited to the examples listed in the toolkit. If you believe a piece of evidence demonstrates a criterion effectively, include it. Use the KSB mapping document to help you make sure every required area is covered. Although the portfolio isn't graded on its own, it plays a vital role in your interview, where the assessor may ask you questions based on what they've seen in your evidence. Reflective accounts, or self-evaluations, aren't allowed unless they directly support pass criterion P14. If you need to provide additional background for a piece of evidence, you can include a context statement. You're welcome to use the DSW template, but you don't have to. You can use your own format if it meets the same purpose. You have flexibility in how you format your portfolio, whether it's a series of standalone documents or grouped items in folders. You must use the portfolio referencing table available in the toolkit to map your evidence clearly against the pass descriptors. Each pass descriptor must be supported by at least one piece of evidence. Some descriptors may naturally require more than one, depending on what is being demonstrated. You're not obliged to map your evidence to the distinction descriptors, but doing so can strengthen your portfolio and give you a better chance of achieving a distinction. It's optional, but worth considering if you're aiming for the higher grade. The interview lasts 60 minutes, with an extra 10% allowed if you need a few extra minutes to finish your final answer. It will be delivered online via video conferencing, so we recommend testing the platform ahead of time to avoid any technical issues. You'll be asked 9 open questions about your evidence. The assessor can ask up to 2 follow-up prompts for each one if they need you to clarify or expand. The goal is to explore how your portfolio evidence links to the required knowledge, skills, and behaviors. You can bring a copy of your portfolio and your own notes to the interview. We strongly recommend reviewing your portfolio beforehand, so it's easier to refer to during the conversation. Make sure you're in a quiet space with no interruptions, and that you meet all the technical and environmental requirements listed in our conditions for live assessment. The grade will be sent to your training provider following the assessment. Let's take a closer look at pass descriptor P11 and how the amplification can support your preparation for the portfolio-based interview. This descriptor includes 3 key elements. First, you'll need to explain how you contract with all relevant stakeholders. This includes considering practical factors like logistics and preferences, both yours and your coachees, as well as the wider organizational context where the coaching takes place. You should be able to describe how you set clear goals, agree on intended outcomes, and bring the coaching contract to a close. If you involve multiple stakeholders, such as line managers or HR, you should explain how you do so while keeping the coaching relationship focused and confidential. Second, you must show how you maintain confidentiality and professional boundaries. This includes protecting sensitive information, storing coaching records appropriately, and acting ethically at all times. Finally, the descriptor refers to acting as an ambassador for coaching. This means promoting the value of coaching in your organization, upholding high standards, and contributing to wider awareness of the profession. Use examples from your own coaching practice to demonstrate how you apply these principles and the impact this has had on your coachees or stakeholders. For the interview, your success depends on how well you know your portfolio. Take time to review your evidence and make sure your referencing table is complete and easy to follow. You can bring your portfolio and notes into the assessment, but confidence comes from familiarity. Use the KSB mapping document to check that all the required criteria are covered. Although the portfolio isn't assessed on its own, it plays a crucial role in shaping the interview. The better organized and more purposeful it is, the more effectively you'll be able to respond to the assessor's questions. When deciding what to include, don't try to include everything you've ever done. Be selective. Each item should have a clear purpose and be mapped to one or more past descriptors. And if you aim to achieve a distinction, it's worth considering how your evidence might support those descriptors too. While mapping to distinction is optional, it can strengthen your case. You should know exactly why you've included each piece of evidence. Ask yourself, what does this show about my coaching? What descriptors or KSBs does it support? A large portfolio full of loosely relevant material can make it harder to perform well at interview. A concise, clearly mapped portfolio will help you find your examples easily and speak about them with confidence. During the interview, you'll be asked to explain your decisions and approach, so the more intentional you've been when building your portfolio, the more effectively you'll be able to demonstrate your competence. The third and final assessment method is the knowledge test. This is an online, multiple-choice exam designed to assess the 9 knowledge criteria outlined in the standard. The test is invigilated by a DSW invigilator, who will support you to log in and will monitor the assessment remotely via Microsoft Teams. You'll need to keep your camera and microphone on for the full duration of the assessment and follow the published exam conditions. You'll have 90 minutes to complete the test, which includes 40 multiple-choice questions. These are divided into 2 parts, 30 standard questions and 10 scenario-based questions based on 2 short case studies with 5 questions per scenario. Each question has 4 answer options, and you must choose the single best answer. The assessment is delivered via Question Mark, a secure web-based exam platform. Once your gateway is approved, you'll receive your login details and a user guide for Question Mark, and a booking link from DSW by email to select your test date. You'll also be able to access a mock test to help you get familiar with the system and format. In addition to the online mock, you can use the paper-based mock test in the toolkit to support your preparation. This is a closed book test, and it must be completed under formal exam conditions. Your results will be sent to your training provider once the test has been marked. One of the key focus areas for the knowledge test is K1, Theories of Learning and Reflective Practice. You'll need a clear understanding of several important models. Kolb's 4-stage learning cycle. Know the 4 stages: concrete experience, reflective observation, abstract conceptualization, and active experimentation. You may be asked to identify where someone is within the cycle based on a scenario. Gibbs' reflective cycle. Be familiar with each stage: description, feelings, evaluation, analysis, conclusion, and action plan. Understand how this model supports structured reflection. Schön's model of reflection. Understand the difference between reflection in action, which is reflecting during an activity, and reflection on action, which is reflecting after an activity has taken place, and how both apply in coaching. You should also be familiar with the basic schools of psychology: Gestalt focuses on awareness and the whole person. Behaviorism focuses on learned behaviors through conditioning. Humanism emphasizes personal growth and self-direction. And cognitivism focuses on internal mental processes like memory and problem solving. Make sure you understand the definition of psychology and how it differs from other disciplines like counseling or therapy. You will also need to know the definition of neuroscience, the scientific study of the brain and nervous system. You don't need to go into detail, but you should be able to recognize the term and its relevance to coaching. You may be given short scenarios and asked to apply these theories in context. Focus on recognizing how each model or approach might appear in real or hypothetical coaching situations. The knowledge test is a multiple-choice exam that assesses your understanding of the knowledge statements in the standard. Your knowledge test will be delivered via the question mark platform. Before your assessment, ensure you can log in successfully, understand the test format, and meet all technical and exam conditions. For the knowledge test, make sure you've used both the online mock and the paper-based mock in the toolkit. The online mock will help you get familiar with the platform, and the paper version is useful for revising content. Pay attention to the knowledge amplification section. It highlights key theories and models. And remember, 10 of the 40 questions will be scenario-based, so be prepared to apply your knowledge to real-life situations. Read each question carefully. Pay close attention to keywords like most appropriate, best describes, or most likely to result in. These phrases are designed to test your judgment, not just recall. Use your time wisely. There's no advantage to finishing early, so take the time to check your answers and think through each option. If you're unsure, try to eliminate any clearly incorrect answers first. This increases your chances of picking the correct one. The best preparation is a combination of mock tests, revision, and a solid understanding of how the knowledge applies in real coaching scenarios. It's not about memorizing definitions, it's about understanding concepts well enough to recognize how they show up in practice. If you think you might need extra support during your assessment, you may be eligible for a reasonable adjustment. Reasonable adjustments are designed to remove any unfair barriers and give all apprentices a fair opportunity to demonstrate their knowledge, skills, and behaviors. This could include, but is not limited to, things like extra time, adaptive materials, or additional breaks. It's really important that any adjustments are agreed and approved in advance. If you think you might need one, apply as early as possible. We'll guide you through the process and make sure the right support is in place. You can find full details in our reasonable adjustments policy, which your training provider can find on EPA PRO. There are a few key things you can do to give yourself the best chance of success across all parts of your endpoint assessment. Start by getting familiar with the standard. Everything the assessor will be looking for is outlined in your toolkit. Use it as a guide throughout your preparation, especially when reviewing your portfolio, preparing for the interview, or revising for the knowledge test. Talk about your coaching with confidence. Practice speaking clearly and confidently about your coaching practice. You'll need to explain your approach, the decisions you made, and the reasoning behind them, not just describe what you did. The assessor is looking for the thinking that underpins your work, so be prepared to talk about your why. Be authentic. The EPA isn't about giving rehearsed or scripted answers. It's your opportunity to show that you're a capable coaching professional. Be yourself, speak honestly, and let your enthusiasm for your work come through. Check your setup. Make sure your technology works in advance. Test your camera, microphone, and internet connection before assessment day to avoid any last-minute problems. Keep your photo ID ready, as you'll need to show it to the invigilator or assessor. You must also follow the conditions for live assessment. Make sure your environment and equipment meet these requirements. With the right preparation and mindset, your EPA is your chance to showcase the knowledge, skills, and behaviors you've developed on your coaching journey. Approach it with confidence and clarity. Thank you for watching. We hope this video has helped you feel more confident and prepared for your endpoint assessment, and we wish you the very best of luck. If you have any further questions or need support, please don't hesitate to get in touch. Thank you.